Hi, my name is Rachel O'Kello and I'm a UK-based solicitor specialising in immigration, nationality and deportation law. And today is day 3 of our 10-day challenge, where I come to you every day breaking down the requirements of the partnership route, spouse visas, applications for people who want to come to the UK for love. And that's what I do every day, all day. Applications that I do are based around family life. I do immigration. I'm an immigration specialist. 90% of the work that I do, actually probably 95% of the work that I do, is purely family life immigration. And so I've seen that people get confused, even if they've got legal advisors, or they can't recognize when they're not getting proper and correct legal advice. Or also, it just helps people to understand what it is they're going through with the immigration requirements, if they have such a video like this where we break down and just explain the different requirements of the Home Office rules around coming to the UK for love, spouse visas, partnership route. And in the first video, I talked about what is a qualifying partner, so you can go back and look at that first video. And at day 2, I talked about suitability, because you need to get through being a suitable person in order to be able to make the application in the first place. Because as I explained over the last 2 days, sometimes an application is bound to fail because either your partner is not a qualifying partner, or you are considered not to be not a suitable person. Okay, so you can go back and look over those 2 videos if you need to refresh your memory, or just to see what we discussed previously. So today I'm going to talk about the financial requirements, the minimum income requirement, okay, which is a phrase used to dictate the minimum income that your sponsor, so your qualifying partner, we're going to call them your sponsor, has to be making in order for your application to succeed, for you to come to the UK and join them. If you are outside of the UK, if you are inside of the UK and you are already on the spouse visa route, then you need to maintain that minimum income requirement in order to continue on that route. So to enter on that route and to continue on that route, and that is continuing when you extend your leave to remain and when you apply for indefinite leave to remain. You need to be on that minimum income requirement. So the minimum income requirement at the moment is 18,600, and that's gross. It's not net, it's not what you take home, because most people are more familiar with what they take home, but it isn't what you take home, it's your gross minimum income. And you don't have to use all of your income, you just have to use sufficient income to show that you meet the minimum income requirement. And that will go up per non-British citizen child that is going to accompany you to the UK. So if it's the main applicant and a dependent, for each non-British citizen child, the requirement will go up. So you need to be mindful of that the sponsor has to earn that minimum income amount depending on the number of applicants who are coming to the UK, who they are sponsoring. And that is it's set in stone. Okay, it's set in stone. If you want your application to be processed in a straightforward way. And there are many rules and documents that you have to provide to show that your sponsor satisfies the minimum income requirement. And really, you shouldn't get frustrated, because when you see what you've got to provide, wage slips, bank statements, a letter from your employer, for the last 6 months if you've been in the same job, or for the last 12 months if you've moved around employers, you have to provide those informations. Bank statements which have to be signed by the bank, or a letter from the bank confirming that the bank statements are genuine, a letter from your employer confirming that your wage slips are genuine, and then your wages need to the bank statements that you use need to show the wages that you are providing actually being paid into that account. So the account that you're providing for your bank statements have to be the bank where your wages go into. Okay, so you need to provide those documents so that the Home Office can tick all their boxes, because there's a box ticking exercise, so that they can show that you meet the minimum income requirement. And if you're self-employed, then you can use your last full financial year to show that you meet the financial requirement. And there are other documents that you will need to provide as well. And a top tip is that if you are self-employed, you need to provide tax records which are already submitted, not draft records, submitted records, records which are submitted to HMRC. And so you need to get your accountant to do that for you if you use an accountant, and then use your submitted records as evidence that you meet the minimum income requirement. Okay. And I find if you're self-employed, actually, it's better to work alongside your accountant, because the Home Office are going to ask you for lots of documents, which to you are going to look like it's very frustrating to provide those documents. But if you provide that information to your accountant and say, I need these documents, your accountant can probably just print them off for you, because it'll make a lot more sense to the accountant probably than it'll make to you. So it's always a good idea if you're self-employed, whether you're a sole trader, own a franchise, or you are a limited company or any other type of self-employment, that you liaise with your accountant to make sure you get the correct documents. Okay, and don't scrimp on getting those documents. It's frustrating, but it's really important, because you just want the Home Office, the UK Visa Entry Clearance Officer, to just tick their boxes, particularly if you do actually meet the minimum income threshold. Now, that being said, if you are on disability, if you have certain disability allowances, then you can claim an exemption from having to meet the minimum income threshold. So if your sponsor is on disability, there are certain disabilities which are eligible for an exemption. So if that applies to you, then you need to check that and claim that exemption as well. Further, there are exceptional circumstances, because as of 2017 case law, the courts have ruled that the Home Office entry clearance officers, and in the UK when they're considering these types of applications, can take into consideration other factors when they are looking at the minimum income threshold. So they can take into consideration monies coming from outside of the immediate husband and wife. Monies that will be available to them to use, so that they're not going to depend on public funds. And also, if there are exceptional circumstances as well, where particularly if there are children involved, then if you don't meet the minimum, if your sponsor rather doesn't meet the minimum income requirement, then if there are children involved, then you can look at claiming an exception based on exceptional circumstances. And you may well need to consult with a solicitor or legal advisor to give you an idea of whether such an application is likely to be successful. And also, if it is not going to be successful, but you really believe or you're advised that you do have exceptional circumstances, then it may be that you have to challenge on appeal. And just a word about appeal. When you appeal on a application for spouse visas, the court can take into consideration the situation at the time of the appeal, because this is an Article 8 application, an Article 8 appeal, and therefore we always have human rights. So we're not going to be afraid of entry clearance and of the Home Office. If they are violating our human rights, we are going to challenge. Okay, because that sometimes you're going to have to challenge, because if you find that your human rights are violated by the immigration rules, then you can challenge that as far as you want to go. Okay, so that your application can be successful and that you can live your family life together in the United Kingdom. Now, if you're making an application, you're already in the United Kingdom and you're going to make an application based on your spouse or partner, then you don't need to use the minimum income requirements. They won't necessarily apply in your case, because you'll be using exceptional circumstances. Because an application for a spouse visa or partnership visa, partner visa, should ordinarily be made from outside of the UK. You're required to leave the UK and re-enter on that route. So if you have ascertained that you cannot leave the UK for whatever reason, and they must be exceptional reasons, then you will be making the application. It'll take longer but it will mean that you won't need to leave the United Kingdom to make your application to extend your leave to remain. And this is the case whether you've actually overstayed your visa. So even if you've overstayed your leave to remain, which you really shouldn't do, but we do have many cases where we're able to assist people who have overstayed their leave to remain, even by many years, to regularize their status if they have met a qualifying partner who is their current partner or even former partner, but there's a child of the family involved, then we're able to help that person to regularize their immigration status and make an application from within the UK and continue to live legally inside the United Kingdom and to be able to work and carry on their life and achieve eventually indefinite leave to remain and even British citizenship. So it is possible to turn your life around in the UK, and we are experts at helping people to do that. That's a big passion of mine as well. Okay, so that's it for today. The other thing I do want to point out is everything I talked about today has been if you are coming under the UK immigration route. So if you are coming under the European route, then none of that applies to you. You don't have to meet the financial threshold. You do have to be suitable for some of the things I said in previous videos in terms of qualifying partner, suitable person to an extent, but you don't have to meet the financial threshold, and you don't have to leave the United Kingdom to make an application if it's based on the family life with a EEA national who is not British. So it's more difficult actually if you are British, but that's just the way that Europe works for the whole of the EEA nationals. Okay, so that's it. If you want to discuss your case in confidence specifically to you, because obviously this is just general information, then you can call our offices on 01213 894 895 or set up a free video link appointment so that we can discuss your situation, and you can do that online at www.clarityvisas.co.uk. So it's been lovely spending this time with you today, and I'm going to see you tomorrow for day 4. Take care. Bye bye.